quickly the plan became, all right, we got 2 shooters to chase, the short G210 and this broke brow. Mm-hmm. So,
by the way, congratulations on naming him Broke Brow. There's no G2 in the title.
And actually, he has short G2s.
Don't do it.
And he's a 10-pointer. But the name was taken already. So we had to come up with something else.
You're growing. You're growing as a deer hunter.
Mm-hmm. This segment of DoD TV is brought to you by Leupold, American to the core.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast, episode 243. We got live ammunition in the house today.
Take cover.
You are Matt Drury.
You're Tim Chelsvik.
And you are also a big boy killer.
Boom. Booyah. I did it.
Should we say boom or should we say thwack?
Well, we should say, thank goodness it's over.
The season is finally... Oh, we should also say Happy New Year to everybody.
Yep, first show of the new year.
2022. It sounds like something you'd... Like a Buck Rogers episode, 2022.
I don't know what that means. I know I know who he is. I know that that's an old reference. Even though you're not that old, you act like you're that old.
Anachronistic.
Okay, whatever that is.
Out of time.
But y'all say
a man born way past his time. Yeah, I watched the Buck Rogers series when I was a little kid.
You don't have to double down on it.
It was in reruns. They had a little weird robot that just said beady, beady, beat.
I don't know about that. I mean, I did watch a lot of on Channel 11, KPLR here in St. Louis area. Mm-hmm. I did watch a lot of Tarzan on Sundays. And
old black and white Tarzan?
Yep. Okay. And Dad and I. WWF, because that's what it was.
That's what it was, yeah.
And then I feel like... Tonto and
Lone Ranger.
Like Heck those were the staples.
Solid.
I think there might have been some Gilligan's Island in there too.
Even as a kid, that's just something about that show.
Ooh, I liked it.
Off-putting.
Ginger.
Ginger's not bad.
Yeah.
Ginger 100%. Marianne, I mean, if you're on a desert island, yeah.
Let's not be picky.
If you had to choose between the two, Ginger.
And we're already off the rails here in 2022, and we're barely a minute into the new episode.
What do people expect anyways?
We have big goals for this year. I just want to lay it out here right out of the gate. We're going to have some great guests. This is, all right, so this first episode is not. But from here on out, we're going to have some great guests.
We promise we'll try. We'll try.
And we're going to try to get to our 300th episode this year. And if it all works out, it'll be the last show of the year. Mm-hmm. Now, I came into Tim's office the other day and said that, is it doable? I don't know. I feel like we struggled to get 52 of these. That would mean we'd have to hit 58, I think.
It's a stretch.
But I think we can do it, Tim.
The audience is worth it. They deserve it. They deserve more of us. They desire more of us.
Ultimately.
$200 is $200.
We each get bonus based on how many episodes we do.
Oh, it's that math. We need to do more. We need to get to 500.
Yes. We should tease next week's show. We got the mad scientist on.
Yeah, and he's going to be talking about the forked buck. He's going to be doing a little season recap. I look forward to it. Some good stuff coming ahead here with Mark.
Also, some pretty crazy numbers when he talks about like doe patrol.
Managing his deer herd. Jeez.
Think triple digits, but tune in to hear more.
You think you're doing something. You're not
touching.
Not touching.
He's playing chess. Again, we're playing checkers.
Yeah, we knew that.
Yeah. Our Rack Pack members are under no delusions.
Oh, well, they are. They're in the Rack Pack.
Oh.
All right, so let's welcome the newest members. We got Nick DiFilippo. I like it. DiFilippo.
It's probably Spanish of Filippo or Italian.
I don't know foreign languages.
I can't read.
I can't read.
There we go. We know Mark. All right. Kevin Watkinson, Blandy Blandison, Brent Lemming, John Hisht. Is that a misspelling?
It's exactly as it was, sir.
There's no vowels.
No vowel. Yes.
Okay. Bryce Dunnigan and Kevin Day. I believe the fake name is Blandy Blandison.
Brent Lemming. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Is it really?
No, it's Blandy all day long. We should tell people that every shout out includes one fake name.
Tim Shenanigans.
Yep. I'm a real stinker. Excuse my language. If you're listening to the show and you haven't left a review for us,
please
on Apple Podcasts,
leave a good one. If you don't want to leave a good one, just don't do it.
Just make it a 5-star.
Please.
Whatever.
We can't use bad reviews, and we can't delete them, most importantly.
They're stuck there.
And they do affect us.
Yes. So please.
2 things. 2 pieces of business here. Give us a 5-star review.
That's one.
And tell all your friends to listen.
People that maybe even aren't your friends.
Most importantly, people that aren't your friends, punish them.
Hey, you like wasting time?
I got the podcast for you.
You won't learn anything, but you'll feel better about yourself.
Maybe not, actually.
You'll feel like you're a better hunter than
I got
the 2
a lot
guys
of
that host
problems
the
with
thing.
you people. Now you're going to hear about them.
Tim,
You're tired.
I feel like I got hit by a truck.
You got hit by the buck truck.
Yeah. It backed up, ran back over, backed up again. It's been a long season, as we've talked about, but we finally connected last night on one of my target bucks at the new lease.
Heck yes.
Yeah. It was a grind, but I think we learned a little bit about the property. It was our first year on the property. Most importantly, just kind of recapping, we didn't see much daylight activity all year. I think a lot of factors played into it. We talk about it a lot on the podcast, but most importantly, just bad weather, bad moon. Big one.
And a couple good bucks were taken off of it
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah. Yep. Doug killed 174 like the first week of the season. Aaron ended up killing one of the deer that I was chasing through the rut. He killed him in the gun season, the first opening weekend, and he went 140, 141, 140 something. No, 140 as a just a point. I mean, it was a really nice deer and mature. Shoot, I bet that deer was a 6.5-year-old. I mean, he was in the mass he had carried all the way out to the tips of the main beam. So great deer. And then, as we were trying to figure out who to chase, really, we had a big deer on the property, but he was a ghost. I've said it before. We were never on him. We just got random pictures of him and lived on the neighbor mostly. So I never really felt like we were in the game outside of a day or two during the rut where he showed up and we were hunting and, like, okay, could this happen?
Sure.
But most importantly, we had about 2 or 3 bucks that we were chasing consistently. Aaron killed the one. The one Doug killed really just showed up out of nowhere in the early season. He killed him a couple days after he showed up. So he never really was on our hit list because Doug killed him right as soon as he showed up. So we were fortunate in that fact. And so we had about 2 deer that we were after. And this deer that I killed, he only really showed up after the gun season. And, we were kind of detoxing and figuring out, okay, Aaron had killed the one of 2 shooters that were kind of visible. Yeah. And it's like, all right, we basically got the short G210. And then this deer showed up. We called him Broke Brow because we didn't have any history with him through the summer. And he showed up and he was missing his G1. And he had a real nice frame to him. It was a pretty framey deer. And just body wise, and we had enough pictures of him with the other deer that we had seen. And we felt like he was at least a 5.5-year-old. So quickly the plan became, all right, we got 2 shooters to chase, the short G210 and this Broke Brow. Mm-hmm. So,
by the way, congratulations on naming him Broke Brow. There's no G2 in the title.
And actually, he has short G2s.
Don't do it.
And he's a 10-pointer. But the name was taken already. So we had to come up with something else.
You're growing. You're growing as a deer hunter.
Mm-hmm. And apparently Doug was telling me that the neighbors had this deer. He summered about 2.5 miles away on the neighbor.
That's a pretty good stretch.
Yeah. So he showed up there after the gun season and he stuck around. And so, our whole strategy, our food plots really sucked because we had no rain. Mm-hmm. We replanted. Yeah. We just didn't have, early season strategy through the rut really kind of blew for us because once the beans defoliated, which we had 110 acres of beans on that farm, the green plots really didn't take for us. We just had no rain. So it really made a very tough, you couple all that with the other factors, and they were nocturnal anyways. We just didn't have much luck seeing deer.
Yeah.
So we were really looking forward to the late season because we had paid the farmer to leave a couple acres of beans in 2 different spots. One spot we call the hot corner because it is tucked away. It's the most kind of seclusive place on the property in this big, expansive field that's wide open. So we put a lot of focus on that spot. We finally got some late season temperatures and, cold weather, and the stars started to align for us. Yeah. So just here recently, we had a stretch of 3 days of super cold weather. I mean, teens type stuff.
Right after some really, really warm weather.
Like 60, 70 degrees all the way through Christmas and New Year's, really. So I felt pretty good about the cold front aspect of it. I felt pretty good about the fact that we had these standing beans, and it really did pay off for us. So we had a great forecast in DeerCast for Saturday and Sunday, and that's when it was like the extremely cold, like big temperature drop, below average, like everything was kind of lining up for us. And we saw 20, 25 deer the first night, Saturday afternoon when we went in there, and had one of a deer. I think he's 4.5. He was a main frame 8. He's got a split G2, and he's a nice buck, and he had pretty good mass. And he came out. He was within 30 yards, right in front of us, in front of the blind. Bunch of other deer, a bunch of other bucks. It was a great sit. Yeah. So it was like, oh, there are deer here. It could happen. Went back in Sunday. I felt like it was going to be the better day because forecast was showing like the cloud cover was going to dissipate and bluebird afternoon, high pressure. I thought it's going to be a great night. Well, the cloud cover stuck around and they moved super late, but right there within the last 45 minutes, we ended up seeing probably 25 to 30 deer. And as far as bucks, there was a decent 8 short G1s, just okay. Spin lane needs a couple more years, but nothing big popped out.
Well, that cloud cover at that point in the season kind of screws you in a couple ways. Like it makes them move less, but also like it cuts your camera light down. So you may be able to legal hunting light may go till 5:20 or so. Really, the reality is camera light ends before 5.
It's funny you say that because that night specifically, we were done 10 minutes before I'm like, all right. He's like, I'm out of light. And it's like, shit, we still got 10 minutes left.
Frustrating.
And, you're hoping that something's going to show up, but nothing did. It was no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
So the next day, okay, it's Monday. This is yesterday. It's January 3rd. And, the DeerCast is saying okay for most of the day. And then it's like a slight sliver of good in there. And the biggest takeaway as I was looking at the hourly and kind of diving into the details, the pressure was super high. There was no cloud cover. It was the first south wind after several consecutive days of like extremely cold north winds. Yeah. And so Mark and Terry talk about it all the time. That first south can be deadly. And it was bluebird. I mean, it was a beautiful day yesterday, but it was still pretty cold.
It was, yeah.
So we went back out there, and I just had a hunch. I don't know. I felt like they might move earlier because of the fact that there was no cloud cover. I thought maybe they're going to start getting up and feeding in these beans a little sooner. Because really, the other thing was Saturday night, it was nasty. It was rain, wind, sleet. It was just kind of a perfect combination. I was kind of shocked they moved.
Front.
Yeah. But that night, like no pictures on our cameras hardly. So they moved right before, but then they kind of just hunkered down. Yep. So I thought, well, they're going to have to, at some point, they got to move. So we went back in, we got in early, and we sat and waited. And really pretty early, especially for this farm, 4:00, we started seeing movement. And I forget how many, probably 6-7 deer stepped out onto the beans and outstepped the short G210, one of the 2 shooters were after. And I was like, holy cow, it's 4:00. Like Scott's getting beautiful footage. Scott! And it's just perfect. I'm like, this is actually going to happen. I even put something on my Instagram story. It's like one of our shooters is out. No sooner as I took that footage and put that on my story, he just turned around and went back into the woods and just walked away.
Sixth sense.
Son of a...
So close.
Yeah. So the closest he came was 66 yards, I think, 67.
Okay. And you had
I had
bow with you.
Both a crossbow and a vertical bow.
Okay.
We both had tags, Scott and myself. And so we had the two weapons with us. And we talked about on the podcast before, if there's a deer that I felt like was in range, but out of my effective vertical bow range, I was going to pick up the crossbow.
Yeah.
And I just don't have any qualms about it. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And long season, and we're supposed to be able to do this for a living. So
yeah.
Kill me a deer.
Produce a hunt here.
So anyhow, that buck walked off. He starts kind of sparring a little bit with that 8-pointer that came out the night before with the short G1s. So it's like, okay, well, there's some other bucks. And then he just kept walking.
Does that make you nervous this time of year when you see him doing that? Like, are they going to drop one of those antlers in the process?
Well, I didn't think as much about that as like a lot of deer are starting to show up with broken tines. If they made it through the rut, now it's weird. Like, now again, they're showing up and they're like, we had a lot of pictures on our cameras of them sparring a lot, which I don't know enough about deer to know if that's pretty typical this late in the year, but it's been surprising, I feel like, for me to see that much activity.
I've been seeing quite a bit of nighttime sparring activity on some of my cameras. And I saw 3 deer a few days ago when I was out hunting. They're moving at last light, and one just kind of, it didn't gore the other one in the side, but it pushed him enough to where it got him running. So there's definitely still like some engagement. And
Scott was noticing that the last couple of nights, like a bunch of spikes and forks have come out onto this bean field in the last 3 nights. And several of them are limping like crazy, just all busted up.
Still fighting, I guess.
Yeah. And we actually witnessed some of the older bucks kind of pushing them off, and, and you just wonder how much that they're beating on them. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess they're probably always reinforcing the pecking order.
Yeah. So anyways, the short G210 walked off. I thought, well, it's early enough. Who knows? He might come back up out of there. And I got a glimpse, like, because we're scanning the timber, and it's definitely more open than at any part of the year. But it's amazing to me how these deer camouflage themselves.
Just blend in and melt away.
I don't know where it's like, oh, there's one, there's one. And I threw up the lure poles. I caught a glimpse because we were still tracking that 8-pointer walking through the timber. And I thought I caught a glimpse of broke brow. And I even said that to Scott. I think I just saw broke brow, but it was so quick and he was kind of walking away. I was like, I don't know though. I'm not sure. And so anyways, the night progresses and more deer start filing out. And I mean, there had to be 15 bucks on the field. And I'm talking like yearlings and forks and spikes and a bunch of 8 points, like 3 or 4 different 8-pointers and all types of age levels. And the best probably being that 4.5-year-old short G1 8-point. And out of nowhere, a couple does squirt out of the timber. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, something behind him. We throw up, binoculars, and it's him. And that was 5 o'clock. So we still.
How far out is that?
That's probably close to 90.
Okay, so it's in the ball game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's right in front of us. Of course, we had all the windows shut. Our wind was blowing. It wasn't the most ideal. It was out of the south, which isn't horrible, but it changed from southwest, which is perfect, to a little bit of southeast, which blows basically kind of to the edge of where some of them are coming out. I'm not so sure that some of the does early on kind of were getting a weird whiff, and they just kind of walked back into the timber, and that's what originally the first shooter kind of followed them. I kind of felt like that's what happened, but you'll never know. So anyways, we kept all the windows shut tight, and so he's coming a little bit at a time, a little bit forward, but he's basically, he's 70s, 80s.
What time is this?
It's 5. So sunset was 4:55, I think, last night. So we had 4:25. And as you pointed out, it gets darker earlier for the cameras, but it was a bluebird night. So I felt like, hey, we might actually make it close to the end of legal shooting. So anyways, he actually all the deer, for whatever reason, start feeding past us. And the way we have our Keen trailer and the muddy blind is we're set up on the edge of the beans, and we kind of felt like it's closer to the left side of the timber than it is to all the stuff in front of us on the right, because we felt like we'd maybe catch one squeezing through and be able to be in vertical bow range of one.
Sure.
And so anyways, all the deer just start filing past us, which was great in the fact that he kind of, I feel like he was kind of like following the herd a little bit, but it was bad in the fact that they were all right under us, which then when you go to open a window, which if you haven't hunted out of a blind, the blinds are fantastic for a bunch of reasons, But the hardest part about trying to kill something is opening the window right when you're ready to shoot. And there's a fine line of doing it too early or doing it too late.
Because you're trying to contain your scent as much as you can by keeping the windows up.
Trying to do that, but also that movement, you got to think like all of a sudden there's a big pane of glass there that there's a reflection on from their angle.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's a black hole there where there once was reflection. So you got to get it to where you're hoping that you catch them when their heads are down, so nobody sees the reflection movement, out of the corner of their eye or whatever. And then you got to be super still, because you better be ready to shoot, because they can see very clearly there's two people moving around in there. There's a camera lens. There's a guy hopping around trying to, because you got to open the window. So you got to get up to open the window, so there's just a lot of little factors. That's the hardest part. If you can get past that part, you've gone 99% of the way. You just got to make the shot. So anyways, he's coming towards us. Finally, he committed, and he was kind of walking fast enough where I felt like, okay, it's going to happen. I didn't feel like he was going to come close enough for me to get a shot with my vertical bow. Okay. I felt like, based on how I was shooting, because I kind of go day by day on that. If I'm shooting decent at 40, I wouldn't feel horrible. It's like that's the edge of where I feel comfortable, 40. Sure. And if I'm shooting decent that day, I always shoot before I go out, then I'll take that shot. But if I'm not shooting great that day, like the edge of my of my ability is 30, and and I feel I can make a 30-yard shot even on my worst day. I'm going to make that shot. But 40, 50, no way. So the last I ranged him, he was at 50. And that, to me, it's like, okay, there's no question. The deer, when I opened the window, I think there was a spike below me on the left side that kind of like not totally blew out of there, but like heard a little bit of enough of a noise that was like spooked him a little. Yeah. And then he got on alert and he's looking at us. And there was a point where I go to open the window. First of all, we had to change spots in the blind with all these deer around us, because that angle he was at, I needed to be where Scott was at to shoot. So we got up and switched spots all while he's coming closer. And
you're probably trying to keep the trailer from shifting and stuff too.
That is one slight downside of being on a trailer. That Keen trailer is like you shift your weight because you got ties or whatever, like that are holding it from blowing over, but it does still shift somewhat. Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't take much to totally shift the whole thing, and it's making noise below you. It's all metal.
Sure.
So we did all that and didn't spook anything.
It's amazing.
And the deer are all around us. And then I go to open the window, shortly after that. And I think at some point Scott's like, he's staring right at us. And I'm stuck in that spot where like your legs, you're kind of like crouched, but you're not. So you're not sitting and you're not standing.
Yep. Like the worst possible position.
And I haven't worked out in a couple of months. So.
Feeling the burn.
So I'm just sitting there with the window kind of halfway or most of the way open. And then he must have put his head down. Scott gave me the A-OK, put the window all the way up. And then I got to get down, get the crossbow up. He's starting to go to the right, and I range him. He's at 50. I go to put the crossbow on him, and we communicate. You ready? Yep. Go. I go to shoot, and I've never shot a crossbow. I've practiced with it, but I've never killed anything with it.
Scott and I were talking about that earlier. I was like, is this Matt's first crossbow buck?
Yeah. And so I go to pull the trigger, and the safety was still on. It's like, God damn.
Crossbow 101.
I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. So obviously I figured it out real quick when I go to squeeze the trigger and like the whole thing is just locked. So I instantly knew. I was like, the safety. And I luckily I just remembered where it was at. I mean, it's right there by your thumb.
And on that mission, it's ambidextrous. Yes. You had to get to it either side.
Yeah. So I didn't have to move my point in saying that is I didn't have to move the crossbow too much to see it.
Yeah.
And I flipped it and then got back on him, but he's at super high alert. He's staring straight at us. He was broadside for me. I'm on the left of Scott, but he curled in just a little bit throughout that process. And, I pulled the trigger. I don't know if he was 50 exactly. I don't think he was because the last I ranged him, he had taken a few steps, but pulled the trigger and crossed the bolt, flew, true and hit basically where I was aiming. It was a little bit high, a little bit back, but not bad.
Okay.
And he took off running. And then what was weird was his tail was up. He mule kicked, but his tail was up. And then when he got into the timber, it was kind of slow going.
Okay.
He ran off, but he wasn't acting like he should have. I felt like for like a double lung hit.
When you were watching, did you watch the hit through the scope and did you see like what you hit, or was it kind of a blur?
Kind of a blur. Usually I remember early on when I first started hunting, I thought, I don't know how anybody ever knows where their shot goes because I could never remember that part of it.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like blacked out.
Go comatose.
But through the years, I've killed enough deer where I finally have started. I feel like I always can sense the shot really well. Had no idea last night where I hit him. None. And we had that FTS from Tacticam on the scope.
Yeah.
So there's an added element of kind of in your wayness. And it just wasn't, I just wasn't sure. And the nocturnal, the light on the knock, it did go off, but it wasn't like super bright for whatever reason. And so I wasn't even sure it went off at all until we rewatched the footage. But as soon as Scott rolled back the footage, we felt like, oh, okay, it's a great hit.
Yeah.
Should be a dead deer. And I looked at DeerCast track and found a hit similar. And it was saying 4 to 6 hours, which I was a little surprised, but it was a little dependent how far back you were, and I was doing quartering 2, even though it was kind of more broadside. The video I picked it had all 4 of the instances, but the one I focused in on was quartering 2 because I felt like he curled in enough.
Yeah. Your dad always uses the word wrinkle.
Yeah.
Wrinkled in.
And he did. You look at the screenshot of the still of arrow impact, he was wrinkled in. So I thought, well, hold on here.
We always err on the side of caution. Wanted to err on the side of caution here and give him a little bit of
course.
But we always err on the side of caution.
Thank you, Terry.
Runs the family.
We erred on the side of caution. And so we did get down. We looked for blood. We found the bolt. And the bolt was covered in blood. And that was a good sign. But
Deer blood?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I cut myself before I shot the deer. It was crazy.
It's a really hard to blood trail.
Yeah.
Hemophilia.
But there wasn't great blood in the field. And he did take off. But then I thought to myself, like, I've killed deer before that took off like a bolt of lightning that bled like a stuck pig. You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't really feel like that was a good excuse because they all do that when they get hit.
Right.
So it definitely, I was like, we got to the edge of the timber. And so we knew exactly where he went in. We marked it. I was like, let's go back. The tracker. So we don't plug our tracker EV, the electric unit, in out there. We don't have electric to plug it in. So we leave it out there and then we take the keys, but we leave it out there and then we come charge it, every couple of weeks we need to charge it whenever it's on E. Well, with this cold weather, it's been draining it a little bit quicker. And so it went to E the other day and the landowner, Doug, he was nice enough and he helps us with this a lot because he lives right there. He charged it for us, but it was only like a few hours of a charge. And then he brought it back that night for us to hunt with it. Okay. And so it went from full to quarter of a tank, like very, very quickly. And so then as we're driving in that afternoon sit, it got down to E like very quickly. And I was like, shit, this thing ain't going to make it back out of here. So I thought, okay, we need to give him time. We actually had the Tracker 800 there Anyways, so I was like, let's go back to camp. So we go get the tracker. We go back to camp. We talked to Doug. We talked to Aaron, who they're both on, Doug owns it and Aaron's on the lease, and they weren't far away. So we were going to go in and track the deer together anyways. And we had to get permission from the landowner, the neighboring landowner, because he ran onto the neighbor's property. Where they're all filtering out was the neighbor's timber. So Doug called the landowner, got permission. And that's a whole different story that I probably shouldn't get into. Okay. But we got permission. So anyways, we waited a couple hours. All told, by the time I shot him and by the time we went back in after him, it was 3 hours we gave him. Mm-hmm. And so we go in to start tracking, and it was not great blood for pretty much most of the blood trail. I was really shocked, and I was shooting the tri-pan. Mm-hmm. I've never shot that head before, but I've heard nothing but fantastic things about it.
It's the Crossbow version.
No, it was just a Rage tri-pan.
No.
I assume that's okay. Dad uses a 3-2 chisel, 2-3 chisel, out of, he uses a cross bolt collar on a 2-3 chisel.
That's the trick.
Yeah. So anyways, the reason why I use the tri-pan is because of that collar. It's so sturdy on that tri-pan. I mean, you can't hardly, mess that up. Whereas I felt like say if I used a 2-3 with the regular collar, I'd be a little worried about the speed and the flight opening it up on the way in. So none of that happened. The arrow flew great. The broadhead opened up upon impact, and I just don't know why he wasn't bleeding. And Dad said, because I was texting him, he's like, sometimes on those high lung hits, he goes, you'll see that where they don't open up until 150 yards or further.
Sure.
And that's where it's nice, obviously, to have somebody that's got experience with hundreds of, probably 1,000, deer hits that he's tracked over the years.
Yeah.
So anyways, we didn't get discouraged by it. We just slowly kind of kept tracking, and we traveled 250, 300 yards before we found him. And there were areas where he opened up better, but then there were areas where he'd close back up. It was really odd. I've never, and it was full pass through. So there were spots where it was out of each side of him, but it was a weird track. I felt like it was good to go on a track job like that because it wasn't like so hard that we were losing hope, but
we had to work for it.
We had to work a little bit for it.
I also wondered, I saw the shot on Scott's computer a little bit ago, and the Crossbow is it's flat shooting. It is. That I assume the entry and the exit were pretty much on the same plane.
Very similar.
And so I think, if you're hunting out of a stand, you're a little bit closer, the arc just of a vertical bow arrow, you have one that's higher, one that's lower, and you tends to drain out of that lower wound a little more.
I think you're correct in that. And I was shocked how quickly it gets there and how flat it shoots.
Yeah.
I mean, but when we gutted him, he was double lunged, and the exit hole was quite a bit further back than entry. So he was curled enough that was surprising, but I did still get both lungs clipped that back one.
Okay.
So anyways, we found him and got the tracker, and he of course was in a horrible spot. And so that was actually interesting to see as well, because we put that 800 to the test during the summer when we used that RTP drill or the groundbreaker. But that was a heavy piece of equipment. So I got to kind of see what it would do, but I really haven't had a chance to use it in 4-wheel drive or anything like that. And we loaded up that deer. We loaded up all 4 of us, and we had to go up a steep incline. And I clicked it in 4-wheel, put it in low, and never. Sweet. It wasn't even at all a question of it. Just went straight up out of it.
Nice.
So that was nice to see. And in general, all's well that ended well, and it was a great buck. Had great mass. His main beams, I think one was 22 inches, another one was 22 and some change. So he had decent main beams. Yeah. He was just short tined, kind of killed him, and he was missing a brow tine, which that was only 3 inches on the one that was there. So it wasn't like it was a huge loss, but I think he went 141 and some change.
Heck yeah.
So.
And end your season.
Yeah. It was a big relief. Got home at about 1:30, got up about 6:30 with the kids, took them to school, and
then off to work.
Feel like I got hit by a bus.
Yeah. it never ceases to amaze me how much work it is to kill a deer. Not just the lead up, but once you do, then just recovery and the process, like everything after the fact.
We had talked about it off camera. I said, and I don't have a place to process my deer, so like the amount of work that you put into it after that point is days.
Yeah. And you kind of hope for cold weather that you can at least gut it, skin it, and let it hang for a little bit so you can go in and sleep and maybe debone it in the morning. Or
early season though, bet it's rough.
Oh, yeah, you got to work on it ASAP.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward on the new farm to, getting to do those things because we'll have a place to do all that. But in the meantime, I take it to a processor or take it to a cooler. Doug knew a guy that had a cooler, so we took it there. And then he's taken that deer from there. So anyways,
congratulations.
It's been a long season. I feel bad for anybody that had to follow along.
It just makes it more dramatic to end the season like this.
It felt good at the shot. It did feel good to, I felt like, all right, it felt like a good hit. Once we looked at the footage and it's like, all right, it's kind of a sigh of relief, but instantly I then thought I'm going to get shit about using a crossbow.
The crossbow factor.
So that I did want to talk about that because it's like, man, why is that even a thought for me that has to be, but I see enough shit that people get for using crossbows. I'm like, this is going to be inevitable that I'm going to take heat for using this crossbow, but I really don't feel bad about it. Like I would not have killed him at 50. I just wouldn't have shot that far.
Right.
It's just not that good. I'm not good enough to shoot that far.
I mean, it makes me think twice about maybe bringing the crossbow with me, not because I want to like quote unquote cheat, but I feel like with my one rifle kill, I feel like if I'm in this world, I should have like a broad array of experiences, killing different ways of killing deer. Vertical bow, crossbow, firearms. I'd like to kill a deer with a buck with a muzzle loader, just so I can say like I did it. It probably won't be something I continue to do for long, but just to say that I did it. Yeah,
that was my first crossbow kill, buck, doe, anything, and I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was fun to use. It was proficient. Yeah, I think that the most important part. So I don't know. I did have mixed feelings about it. So I felt like that was interesting. Like I didn't know, but my mixed feelings were not about internal feelings. It was about other people.
The perception.
Yeah. So that I was like, well, that sucks. Like it was a long season. Scott and I talked about it. We never did have a shooter in bow range, what I call bow range, 30 yards.
That's true. Yeah.
I never once all season. So I don't know. It was just a grind. It was one of those years. I would have loved for nothing more than to use that V3X and kill something with that.
Sure.
It wasn't for lack of trying. We're still using it. I was still shooting with it every day we went out, but just didn't have the opportunity. So
do you think this experience will influence how you view the crossbow and maybe utilize it next season?
I don't think so. I think the other part about this late season in that setup, like he would have had to have walked through this gap, or you know what I mean? Like it could happen. I could have waited till January 15th and hunted the rest of these cold fronts, and maybe it could have happened. Yeah. But I just felt like I'm not going to look this gift horse in the mouth and just say, oh, we'll wait till next time. We saw too few shooters this year to let him go. So my point in saying that is next year going into it, I'd say it depends on the season. Like I'm not going to hunt in the early season with it. I'm not going to hunt in the rut with it. But if I get to the late season and I've already filled my gun tag, I'm going to use it.
It's kind of a last resort.
Yeah. I don't feel that bad about it, honestly. So I don't know. Give me shit or don't give me. I don't care really.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to change the way people perceive the kill.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how you like the external factors that color the experience that you had.
And I think this is why people feel guilty if they shoot something that's not perceived as a
legitimate
trophy buck.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and they go on, social media and everybody's like, should I give him another year? I think that's why people are like, well, he wasn't my biggest deer, but I think that's the mentality. It's other people giving you crap.
We are the best anti-hunters.
So I was happy. I don't know that the neighbor was happy but I was happy, and I felt like he was at least 5.5. And if you watch the footage, I mean, you go into DeerCast and watch the DeerCast now. I mean, I believe he was at least 5.5. Mark says he felt like he was maybe older just because of how muscular and how big the body was this late in the year when they're totally run down. So with not having any history on this farm, I really don't know unless I sent the teeth off. But he was mature. He's dead. He had great mass. His down at the bases, he was pretty cool. So.
And overall, just a really good first year on that lease for you guys. Like 3 really nice bucks taken.
Yeah,
for sure. First time figuring out, I know you guys turkey hunted it, but like it's your first time kind of figuring out how everything lays out. And the deer are still probably responding to how they were hunted before. And you guys are dealing with that baggage.
Yeah, once a gross 174, a gross 140, gross 141. So pretty solid year.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And all mature bucks, most importantly. So look, nowhere to go but up. So we're excited. And I think, Doug and Aaron and I and Scott, and we're all looking forward to putting some, changes in place going into next year and figuring out how we can take what we learned or where they're moving at and try to make it better. I said, we got to get some rain on food plots.
That's such a killer. In August, gosh.
Yeah.
It does get me thinking about turkeys already, though. I'm starting to transition away from deer. Like I still got a tag to try to fill here. And
are you going to go much? I mean, it's cold weather.
Yeah. I just haven't decided. Like I legit may take the Crossbow with me. Like I got this 10-pointer that I just saw out of the blue. And like, he's a really nice deer.
It was.
He's probably 4.5. So like you were asking me, like, you going to maybe let him go? I was like, well, if I don't shoot him, I'll let him go. Cause I just don't know in the big timber. I don't know if I'll even see him again, let alone get close enough to kill him. Yeah. But I think I'm going to make a move. I think I know where he's bedding. So this time of year, that late movement is just so key. I think I'm going to make a move and maybe try to get up in a saddle closer to this brushy area and just give it a shot. I mean, kind of running out of options at this point. Yeah. But even if my season ends tomorrow, I'm happy. Like it was a good season.
It was a great year.
I don't want to get greedy and, just keep pushing until I'm sick of deer hunting.
Yeah. So. I'm sick of it. I'll be honest.
It's all.
And we talked about it. Like we've had tough years before, but not where we weren't seeing deer. It was tough because we screwed up. It was tough because I messed up here. It was a chess match or whatever.
When you don't have a chance to screw up, that's really brutal.
Jake here in the studio, one of the producers and editors, he was logging most of our footage in the Monday meeting yesterday. It was there was pretty uneventful when the editors are telling you that.
Cloud passes by.
Yeah.
Leaves rustle.
There was just nothing that happened all year. So
tough.
I'm glad it's over. My wife is really glad it's over. Mm-hmm. She texted me today. She's like, so you're not going anymore, right? I'm like, no,
right?
I'm done. Yeah. I can't. I know Scott's sick of it. I'm sick of it. You transitioning to turkey. I'm transitioning to the new farm, and we're working on it. Yeah, with the house, we're fixing it up, and and then the farming side and figuring out the deer and food plots, and
you can only make that house a little less disgusting.
So Tim's referring to my Instagram page. I did a set of stories. I took the kids there the other day during Christmas break, the winter break or whatever. We took them to the farm one day because I wanted them to see it. And Lola's been so excited. And Cameron's excited, but Lola's been saying our farm. She's 5. And it's the cutest thing. Melts my heart. I get a kick out of it. And so I'm like, all right, let's go to the farm. And they're excited, and we got their boots, and we brought Cam's new BB gun that he got for Christmas, and I brought my old Red Riders. I thought this could be a fun day. It was warm. And we get up there and we get inside the house, and we had started ripping a few things out. So it's kind of a mess, but I mean, it's still not horrible. And Lola was not happy about the house situation. And so I did a story, and we had just walked out of the house, and I was like, you guys excited? And they're like, yeah. And out of nowhere, Lola's like, it's disgusting in there.
I died because I just could imagine you'd be like, hey, look, it's our new farm. She's like,
it's disgusting in there. And she ran off to the rock pile. I was like, all you need is a rock pile.
No pleasing them.
No. And she wouldn't even go to the bathroom.
Oh, geez.
She's like, it is gross looking, but
yeah.
So I'm like, all right, we got some work to do with these kids.
The upside is she's honest.
Oh, she's honest.
She's not going to pull any punches.
There's no filter. She is her mother's daughter.
Oh, good times.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's exciting. We're starting to have fun, and hopefully by turkey season, the house is totally renovated and undisgusting. Yeah. Somewhere she would be able to rest her head and go to the bathroom.
Look at this place. It's a dump.
It's disgusting in there.
Yeah. I could see Sophie saying something very similar.
But y'all don't say that.
They will.
Yeah, they will. So,
how about we help our buddy Wade out?
All righty. So, the question of the day is proudly brought to you by Leupold Optics, American to the core.
Hi, Matt and Tim. This is Wade Muse from Mississippi. I was just wondering what y'all's favorite multi-tool for deer, turkey, duck, fishing, anything would be. Mine would be the thermocell. I think that's the finest thing since sliced bread. What would y'all's be? Thanks.
I love Wade's voice.
I'm trying so hard not to.
That's
an impersonation.
Where did he say he was from? Obviously,
Mississippi.
There you go. I love the guys from Mississippi. Bobby, he reminds me of Bobby Culbertson, one of our best buddies down there at Terra Wildlife.
I think so. The two of the most attractive things on a woman, for me, are a Southern accent.
Does Beth know this?
Or a
from Missouri?
I'll tell her at some point.
Okay.
Or an Australian accent.
Hi. Hey. Oi. Oi.
I think that's like a punk rocker from the 80s.
I wouldn't know. So what's your favorite gadget? Now you've told us about your...
I'm a freak about backpacks. I love packs like that are well designed, have good pockets, and I haven't used it a whole lot this season for deer hunting. I used it in previous seasons when my camera was a little smaller. But the sling pack from Tenzing, it's like you can run with it if you need to. Like it's so like streamlined.
Do a lot of running in the woods while you're hunting.
Well, sometimes you're chasing down a Canada goose you've arrowed.
Oh,
sometimes
I see.
Yes, but it just doesn't catch on things. It's so slick, and it like all the pockets are well thought out. It's got pockets for everything. But I love a good pack. I love to be organized and have everything easily accessible.
You gave me a heads up on this question, and I honestly. I couldn't think of anything more than a trail camera for me, but it's not probably multi-use for, waterfowl and all the things that he said, but we're so honed in on deer and turkey, and I don't use it for turkey hunting, but although I will say this year I might leave a cell camera up or two because the lease has so many turkeys on it. I mean, like a huge flock. So I might actually use it this year, but the trail camera has been so helpful for me and my time spent afield and maximizing it.
Yeah.
Even though this year wasn't quite the same, but
imagine the time you would have wasted had you not had a trail camera.
Good point. So to me, I'd say my trail camera is the gadget that I most use.
Sure.
And I'm not saying DeerCast because it's not fair for me to plug that, but that would be the other one because I spend so much time looking at the forecast.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. And I also, a good knife with a gut hook on it. A hunting knife to me in my mind has to have a gut hook on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, I got a question for you. How do you effectively resharpen the gut hook?
I will send you a link to an article in DeerCast.
Because, geez, that's hard.
Yes. You can use like a round file.
I've tried that, and maybe I'm not filing it correctly because I feel like I don't have very sharp after the first couple times using it.
You'd have to match the rasp with the curvature of the gut hook.
So you're saying I could have made it worse?
Could have, yeah. Yeah. But it is hard, especially like when they get full of hair and stuff, like you can really dull it pretty quickly.
Well, and that's usually what you're doing with it, zipping it up right up to the chest cavity. So
Yep. Into bone and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but gut hook is a must have.
There you go, Wade.
Okay. Maybe that was Wade Robinson, Mark's farmhand.
He couldn't speak that cool.
He could try, but he wouldn't pull it off.
That Southern accent, it's
legit.
It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, like Cuz Strickland. Okay, the wildlife word. It's brought to you by Tracker Off-Road, the power and rugged durability to get Matt's deer out of a holler.
I didn't even know that was the wildlife word partner today.
Check it out.
Check that out.
Did you call them hollers?
I did, actually. I called it a holler yesterday.
There you go.
And it was a deep holler. Randy Travis type holler.
Wow. That's super deep.
It was deep.
Okay, so it's about deer's hearing. A deer's hearing is just a bit keener than a human's in this particular way. Is it A, that they can hear low frequencies better? B, they can hear high frequencies better? C, they can hear clouds passing overhead? Or D, they can read lips?
Felt like that deer last night was reading lips. Like, oh shit, safety.
That dude don't know how to work.
I was thinking that
Crossbow.
rage commercial when the deer looks at the camera and the rage is flying at him and he's like, ah!
Yes.
Would it be low frequencies better?
It is high frequencies better. So I think back to when I was a kid, the first deer I ever drew back on was with my dad's golden eagle bow that was too big for me. Had the overdraw on it. It was like a 32-inch draw length. And it had just a little aluminum plunger for an arrow rest. And I was shooting, at the time, everyone shot aluminum arrows. Yeah. And I just struggling to come back and the thing's like, and that doe just took off. She wasn't having it.
I see.
If I could hear it, she could definitely hear it. But yeah, research is really showing that deer hearing is kind of similar to ours, but they can hear higher into the high frequency range than we can.
Nice.
So
I'd like to say that I feel like you stepped up your wildlife word today.
Well,
I appreciate the fact that you took the feedback.
Thank you.
From last week's episode.
So I'll make a note of that. I had 15 minutes to come up with this one here.
Pat on back.
And I didn't rip it off of deer and deer hunting this time.
And it really wasn't a wildlife word.
Most of them aren't.
I wonder if we should rephrase this. A wildlife phrase of the day. A wildlife fact of the day. There we go.
That's a fact, yeah.
Wildlife fact.
Fake news.
WF.
We'll have to workshop that one.
WFOD. Take that.
That's your favorite outdoor podcast.
FOD.
Wildlife fact of the day.
NYF. Not your favorite.
We've got hashtags out there.
NYOFOP.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah.
You know what we should have done? So we will continue to mention this. You and I just need to execute on it. An idea that I had that we both agree we should do.
I don't remember ever agreeing
live
with you.
Facebook podcast sessions for our Rack Pack members.
I think at least a couple of them would be way into this.
This would have been a great one to do it on. I just completely blanked.
Well, one of these days we'll start executing our plan.
Sometime in 2022, let's do that.
We're going to hit the 300th episode, but might be number 300 we do it.
Which could be a great piece of feedback from the Rack Pack members. Like, what do you guys want to see? Like, in terms of a celebration, what should we do for our 300th episode?
We've got a whole year to plan it.
Let us know.
Could be big.
Could be
huge.
Nice job. Nice job.
Knew where it was.
If you're not a member of the Rack Pack, just go to Facebook and search Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Rack Pack, and we will pop up. You can join us, answer the membership questions. Also, if you haven't left us a review yet for the podcast, you're stealing from us. You're giving us nothing in return, and I hope you feel terrible about yourselves.
And only if it's a good review.
Yeah, we don't want 4 stars.
If you got a problem with us, just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, just like we do with each other.
I remember when I had my first beer.
Not what I was meaning to hit.
An O'Doyle's.
I was wanting to hit.
If you touch my drums, I will stab you in the neck with a knife.
That's how I feel about anybody leaving us a bad review.
A knife that has a gut hook on it.
Jeez, Tim.
I mean,
I noticed your eyes not twitching. Did you get some rest on our week off?
I don't think I did. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to go with it.
It's not twitching today anyways.
Yeah, I mean, there's always tomorrow. Tune in next time, kids.
We do have a better episode for you next week.
Yeah, Mark Drury. So stay tuned on that one.
And who knows, maybe it's going to be this week because we do need to launch a couple.
Whoa.
But probably not.
Let's not promise too much.
Okay.
Under promise, over deliver.
Or just don't promise anything at all.
Let's do that. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right, until next time, peace out.
Temperatures are going to be dropping. Perfect conditions for the skinny field. Gotta focus on those afternoon hunts. Northwest tree stand, 5 p.m.
It's the easiest decision you'll make this season. Get ahead of your game with DeerCast.
Wee. Did you get a single fart noise in on that episode?
Damn, dog.
Yep. There you go. It doesn't feel complete without it.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DOD TV was brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.